Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel issued force warning over F1 title. That's the opinion of former two-time world champion Mick Schumacher. Verstappen kick-started the 2019 F1 season by overtaking Sebastian Vettel's Ferrari at the Australian Grand Prix to finish third and extend a run of consecutive podium finishes from the end of last year to a sixth straight race. It was assumed going into Melbourne that Ferrari were the fastest team, with Mercedes just behind and Red Bull again the third quickest on the grid. But with race winner Valtteri Bottas finishing 50 seconds clear of Vettel and runner-up Hamilton also over half a minute clear of the fastest Ferrari, Red Bull's title prospects have been spoken about with greater confidence. That's with Verstappen having pushed Hamilton for second, albeit having to ultimately settle for third after an error, going onto the grass at turn 1, cost him time in the final few laps at Albert Park. Red Bull were confident in pre-season, having swapped from Renault engines to Honda power units for this year, and even Hamilton admitted it was awesome to see Red Bull pass Ferrari. He predicted, "The Red Bulls are there with us and I think we are going to have a really great battle between the three of us." I am sure for Ferrari that something has not been right this weekend, but I am pretty sure that the car is still good. It is going to be a really interesting season. And that opinion has been backed by McLaren legend Hakkinen, who is confident that 20-year-old Dutchman Verstappen can have a real say in the destination of this year's championship. He wrote in his column for Unibet, "Someone else who knows how hard it is to be successful in Formula One is Honda. They will be very happy to score a podium finish in their first race weekend with Red Bull Racing. It has taken 4 difficult years of development, and the fact that Verstappen was able to achieve it by overtaking the Ferrari of Vettel was pretty special. It is clear that Red Bull Honda will be a force in this year's World Championship." Hakkinen was also shocked that Ferrari felt forced to hold Charles Leclerc back in his first race for the prancing horse. The Monegasque was pushing to pass teammate Vettel only to be told to back off from the 4-time world champion who was on older tires. Hakkinen added, "It was interesting that Leclerc was faster than Vettel in the closing stages of the race and could probably have overtaken him were it not for team orders. We expected Leclerc to challenge Vettel sometimes this year, but to have team orders imposed in the first race was unexpected. Sebastian will recognize that more than anyone." Next news: Mercedes reveals extent of Hamilton's car damage. In Mercedes' first pure pitwall video of the season, chief strategist James Vowles admits that Lewis Hamilton did a fantastic job in fending off Max Verstappen in the closing stages of Sunday's Australian Grand Prix as the full extent of his car's damage is revealed. On inspection of Lewis' car after the race, "We noticed some damage on what we call the tire seal area," reveals Vowles. "We saw the broken carbon just in front of the rear tire on that floor region. That area is quite sensitive aerodynamically," he continues, "both for downforce and also for balance of the car, and we believe we sustained it during the race while riding over some curbs." Lewis already had a very long stint on the medium tire after covering off the threat from Vettel's undercut, so he was already having to manage those tires quite significantly, hindering his progress through the race. Furthermore, the floor damage wouldn't have helped. It would have caused the rear to be more unstable than it normally would be, and he did a fantastic job bringing that car to the end of the race. In terms of Hamilton's pit stop, which came just 15 laps into the race, 1 lap after Vettel, while teammate Valtteri Bottas didn't pit until lap 23, Vowles explains, "In free air, Vettel was very fast. Ferrari, successfully covered any undercut risk from Verstappen, but were also starting to come into Lewis' window very quickly. Indeed, his outlap was already quite a bit faster than Lewis already, and the medium compound had a warm-up slope. What that means is it's quite difficult for the first few sequences of corners, but into the second lap of driving on it, it becomes faster and faster. So there was a severe and genuine risk that Vettel would be in Lewis' window, he admits. We opted to make sure we covered that off by stopping Lewis and giving him enough time on track to deal with the warm-up and understand what he could do in terms of management to absorb that gap to Vettel. Next news: Michael Schumacher's son Mick speaks out on being compared to F1 world champion dad. Schumacher Jr. is following a similar career path to his father as he prepares to make his Formula 2 debut this month. The pressure of following the footsteps of seven-time Formula 1 champion Michael Schumacher must be a fairly daunting prospect. But for Schumacher's son, Mick, he insists it's no problem. The 19-year-old is set to make his debut in Formula 2 when the season kicks off in Bahrain on March 29. And whilst there will be plenty of eyes on the offspring of the most successful driver in the sport's history, Schumacher Jr. takes it all in his stride. Speaking to the BBC, he said, "Being compared to my father was never a problem for me. Being compared to the best driver in F1 history is the goal you want to achieve, and to have that as my idol and father is very special." Schumacher Jr. will be gracing the tarmac for the Prema team, who previously had new Ferrari driver Charles Leclerc on their team. Michael Schumacher won 5 of his titles with the prancing horse manufacturer, something Mick is hoping he can emulate. He added, "I feel honored to be compared to him because I just learn and try to improve. I can learn very much from Ferrari because they have so much experience, and I will want to work with them to achieve the maximum I can." The first impressions I had from Ferrari was very heart-opening, welcoming me in a family which was always part of my family. Next news: Hamilton claims Brazil win as Verstappen collides with backmarker. Max Verstappen had looked set to win the Brazil Grand Prix until his Red Bull was controversially hit and pitched into a spin by the lapped Force India of Esteban Ocon. Verstappen and the Red Bull team emerged as unexpected contenders in the race after low-key performances in qualifying from both Verstappen and teammate Daniel Ricciardo. While the latter had to fight his way through from 11th on the grid, from 5th Verstappen was soon through to 2nd place behind Lewis Hamilton's Mercedes. Verstappen did not manage to jump Hamilton for the lead during the first round of pit stops, but by staying out later on his first set of tires, the Red Bull driver had the tire life later in the race to give him the grip needed to overtake the Mercedes. From there Verstappen seemed on course for the win, until he clashed with Ocon at turn 1 while the Force India driver attempted to unlap himself. Verstappen spun but was able to resume in 2nd place. Ocon likewise continued in the race but was slapped with a 10-second penalty. Verstappen labeled the Frenchman an idiot. After the race, the pair, rivals since their karting days, almost came to blows. Kimi Räikkönen was 3rd behind Hamilton, the Ferrari driver barely managing to hold out Ricciardo during the final laps. As Mercedes wrapped up its 5th consecutive Constructors' Championship with Hamilton's 2nd place and Valtteri Bottas' 5th place, Red Bull was left to rue another lost opportunity. Just as Verstappen likely would have won had it not been for the Ocon incident, Ricciardo's pace suggested he might have made it a Red Bull 1-2 had he not been hamstrung with a 5 places grid penalty. The 2019 Formula 1 season concludes in 2 weeks' time in Abu Dhabi. Next news: Mercedes hails Hamilton for finishing with damaged car in Melbourne. Five-time world champion Lewis Hamilton did a fantastic job in getting his damaged car to the finish of Formula One's season-opening Australian Grand Prix, Mercedes chief strategist James Vowles said on Wednesday. Hamilton started on pole position but finished second in Melbourne last Sunday after Finnish teammate Valtteri Bottas seized the lead off the line and went on to win by 20 seconds. Mercedes said after the race that part of the floor on Hamilton's car was missing, with Vowles providing more detail on the team website. On inspection of Lewis' car after the race, we noticed some damage over what we call the tire seal area, he said. That area is quite sensitive aerodynamically, it's both for downforce and also for balance of the car. And we believe we sustained it during the course of the race while riding over some of the curbs. Vowles said Hamilton's progress during the race was also hindered by having to manage the tires significantly after an early pit stop to cover the threat posed by Ferrari's Sebastian Vettel. That floor damage wouldn't have helped, he said. It would have caused the rear to be more unstable than it normally would be, and he did a fantastic job bringing that car to the end of the race. Vowles praised Bottas for being on it all weekend, with a perfect start and then leaving enough tire performance to set the fastest lap.